This is the Big Fish Cares Podcast. Big Fish Cares Podcast. And here's your host, Benny Fisher.
Alrighty, folks. Big Fish Cares Podcast. Glad you guys are back for this episode. We have Chad Wall in the studio again. This is technically it's his third episode, but it's his second full episode. The last time that Chad was here, you have to go back and listen to it if you haven't heard it, but he told us a little bit about his life story, about his experiences at Home Depot, his experience, the way he left Home Depot, by the way. You gotta check that story out. That's something for the memory books. He also then told us about ghosts, and then how he wanted to figure out how ghosts were. Then he went down the theory of relativity and the space-time continuum and all quantum mechanics. And yes, sir, I don't know, we should call him I don't know if it's the Albert Einstein or the roofing world. I have no idea, but I don't think there's another. I'd be surprised. And again, if you guys know of another guy in the roofing world or the roofing business that can talk and rap with Chad Wall about quantum mechanics, I want to have you on the episode too, because I feel like it could be good. And by the way, because we're shooting these episodes together, Chad Wall drank 3 Monsters on the first episode, and I think he's going to try to match that on the second episode. So absolutely. Hopefully Monster's going to reach out and do a sponsorship deal, because Big Fish Cares Podcast is looking for a sponsor. Yeah. Because, we got to pay for all this stuff, right? Yeah. It's definitely expensive. So, welcome back, Chad.
Thank you. I could use a sponsorship too, Monster. I do a lot of cool things. I'm sure you could pay me to do something for you.
I'll never forget. We'll briefly touch on the hiring process too, because I know we touched about it when we had all the guys in here, but that was hilarious. But when Chad Wall came in for his first meeting, I remember he brought in his plastic bag and he sits it on the table, and we're all sitting at a round table. There's like 7 or 8 people in the meeting. This guy pops out a Monster. No big deal. I got my Starbucks. He's got his Monster. I'm not judging, right? This is a judgment-free zone here at Big Fish. And the next thing you know, he pops out another one. I'm like, dude, you're going to have a heart attack, bro. Like, what's up with that? Tell me about your,
my Monster addiction.
I know tons of people in the roofing world, love this stuff because, first of all, you're always at the gas station, right? And, I don't know, how'd you get on this thing?
In the carpentry world, when I was framing houses, in the morning when I'd wake up, you'd wake up super early at 5 in the morning, and you just needed a little up and go. So I'd get 2 Monsters back to back. I'd chug them on the way to work. Then I'd work 14, 16 hours that day, go home, slather myself in icy hot, and just lay in bed until I fell asleep, and then woke up and repeated the process. But it was that's just how the morning started if you were a carpenter, And
you say slather yourself in icy hot. Do you mean everywhere?
Everywhere.
Doesn't that stuff feel nummy and really weird and
Yeah, it's better than what my body was feeling like after 14 hours of hanging perma-base.
I've only ever used icy hot one time, and I felt it felt so weird. I was like, wow. Oh, and by the way, for you folks at home, don't ever go pee for you guys out there after you touch some icy hot. That's a no.
That's a no.
Yeah. Don't rub your eyes, right? I'm assuming that's bad for you too.
Oh yeah.
It's like a weird numbing agent. You put this stuff on. I remember seeing the commercials. I never knew what it was. I think it was the Regis Philbin. Remember Regis?
Yes.
So Regis Philbin always, this guy's 70 years old. He's on the screen. He's got his shirt off, and they're rubbing stuff on his lower, back, hip area.
Then they came out with the patches that you could just put on, and it would heat up all.
And then I'm sure there was kids all over the country that were cutting the patches open and doing weird stuff with the patches.
Probably.
Who knows? But wow. So I've been on this Starbucks kick where I get a Venti Quad Mocha. My buddy Joe Rosen, he does real estate out in Florida. He turned me onto this. He came up to visit me one time and do a couple speaking engagements here for the Big Fish team, and he's like, "Hey, bro, can we run by Starbucks?" I'm like, "Absolutely, anything for the guest." And he said, "I want a Venti Quad Mocha." And again, I wasn't a Starbucks person at the time because I just not a coffee drinker. And I was like, but Joe's cool, so I I want to be cool. I want to be cool like Joe. I'm like, all right, I'll take one too. It tastes like a hot chocolate, but it's got caffeine in it. It's like a hot chocolate with caffeine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like a hot chocolate with caffeine.
Quad mocha.
Yeah. Well, the quad is the quad shot. So there's like 4 shots of espresso in it. Mm-hmm. You know, and I do a venti that way. You know, like I got some dilution to it. You know what I mean? Because if you just did like a tall, with 4 shots in it, like it's just gonna be all espresso.
Right.
You're not gonna taste much mocha. You know, and again, I don't really like the taste of coffee per se. Mm-hmm. So that's why I put the mocha in it, and they put a little whipped cream in there for the big fish because I'm a little softy when it comes to my coffee. But so I started drinking these, and anytime I stop at Starbucks, this is my go-to drink. Now in the summertime, I'll get like something frozen or frappuccino, but there's a lot of sugar in some of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And then when I met Brittany, and she's like, you know how many calories are in a venti quad mocha? She's like, there's like 500 calories. I'm like, oh. She's like, but if you put 2 pumps of mocha instead of 5 pumps of mocha, because that's the chocolate sauce that they put in, you can literally cut most of the calories out and it still tastes like chocolate. You know what I mean? So I do that. So that's like my little workaround. Mm-hmm. I have no idea if it works or not, but it does give me enough energy, especially because I've been getting up earlier and earlier and working more. I know we were in here at 7 a.m. Mm-hmm. I get up at 6 a.m. now, and I'm all excited about work now because we have this awesome team, and it's so the venti quad mocha is what kind of keeps me going. The monsters keep you going. But the problem is I can't drink. If I drink 2 of these in a day, I'm not going to sleep. I won't go to bed till 2, 3 in the morning.
Yeah, caffeine doesn't affect me like that.
Well, there's something wrong with you, bro.
There's gotta be.
Now, can quantum mechanics or physics or the theory of relativity explain that?
No, man. I drink enough caffeine to put down a rhino. I don't know. It's mind-boggling.
Here's one thing too I want to talk about. I was on a job site with you the other day, and I got to see you in action with the way your mind works. And tell us about, I forget the customer's name right off the top of my head, but he was living over in Upper St. Clair, and there was a small roof, a little I don't think it was an addition. It was just a small lower level roof, right? It had some
cathedral ceiling,
skylights on it, cathedral ceiling, right? Tell us about that, and tell us about how you figured it out, because this is the benefit to having a brainiac who's also on your roofing team, because some of the things that we run into out there can be very complex.
Oh, yeah.
And again, for the average roofer, we talk about us salesmen, right? Us salesmen go out there, and again, it's hard to tell in some of these situations because things are covered up, right? You can't see. You see ceiling, you see roof, you see shingles. You're like, all right, cool, we'll rip shingles off, put new shingles on, right? Easy.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about what happened when you tore this roof off.
So we started to tear the roof off, and there was an insulation board underneath. There's 1.5 inches of insulation board. Well, we're like, all right, we got to tear that off.
Yeah, this is like the rigid insulation because it's on top because there's no attic space. There's nothing to put the soft cushion and stuff. So for the viewers at home, the listeners at home, especially the people that don't understand how houses are made, right? Mm-hmm. You have the fuzzy insulation that's in between your walls and in your ceilings, right?
Mm-hmm. And in between your rafters.
Yeah, and in between your rafters, right? But in cathedral ceilings, they have to put the insulation, or on flat roofs, they have to put the insulation on top of the decking to be able to give you some type of R value, so that way heat's just not freaking going right out through the roof, right? So this was 1.5 inches. It's polyiso, it's rigid, right? And then tell us more about what happened.
It was directly on top of his tongue and groove wood ceiling. There were no rafters, nothing supporting anything. He had beams going across, and they were spaced about 7 feet apart. And the only thing going from beam to beam was 3/4 inch tongue and groove beadboard. And
the shingles were was the ISO board nailed down first, or did the shingles just nail right down through the ISO board?
The shingles were right down through the ISO board originally. Yeah. So what we did was we put new ISO board down, and then we put plywood.
So when you tore this off, you tore the shingles off. Next thing you know, all you see is this ISO board, and now it's got nails all through. There's I don't know if it was nails or screws. It had to be nails.
They had nails, but they had they
didn't screw it down at all?
They didn't screw it down. No, they nailed it.
I can't believe. See, that's the original. Man, guys. The wind ever got really underneath there. And it got right underneath that little drip pad. Man, they could have blew the whole roof off. Because one thing I learned about commercial roofing is that the whole roof, it's all about the perimeter, right? It's if you can get that perimeter down, you know what I mean? It's that's where that's how the roof is held down.
Right.
It's you got to really mechanically fasten that perimeter down.
Yeah.
And then obviously you got to go down your laps and stuff like that when you get in the middle of the roof. But tell us else what you found out. I'm so glad you were on that job.
So I was looking at I was looking through his skylight, and I noticed the thickness of his roof. I'm like, man, his roof only seems to be like maybe 3.5, 4 inches thick. I was like, what is supporting this? You know, we just kept tearing away at it and found that there was nothing supporting it except for his beams on the inside, and then literally his ceiling.
So it was like
what we were standing on.
Because it was the roof was about what, 10 foot wide, 12 foot wide.
It was probably about 16 wide, maybe 28 long.
And the boards were running the 16.
The boards were running the 28.
The 28.
Yeah.
Okay, so they were going vertical, right?
Yeah,
but there was nothing in the middle, right? Or was there?
Nothing.
There had to be some type of beams in the middle.
Yeah,
right?
he had
How far apart were the beams?
about 7 feet. Too far apart to be spanned by a 3/4 inch board.
So what was it like when you had weight up there?
It was a little bouncy. It was a little bouncy.
Even with 3/4 inch, yeah.
It got to the point where we were limiting how many people we could have up.
Yeah, because you guys only had 2 or 3 guys up
Yeah.
there. Well, it's a small roof anyway. So.
Yeah, but I mean, like even at that, like once we were up there, we're like, okay, this is too much weight, you know. So like the lightest dude was doing until we could get the plywood on to where it would disperse the weight more evenly. It was like the lightest guy was going up there and putting the INSA board up.
Have you ever seen that before?
Only once.
And how many roofs have you been on in your career? Thousands, probably, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I've been doing this 20 years, man. That's like,
You're old, bro.
I'm old, man. I'm old. I look like a youngin', but that's just because I don't know.
You're young.
Yeah.
4 years younger than me. So tell me about the thought process. Tell me about how you had to figure it out. You know, you probably like ripped it all off. You know, I guarantee the crew was probably scratching there. They're like, you know, hey boss, what's up? What do we do next? Like,
yeah, they're like, this isn't good. This is, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we just slowly tried to put it back together as carefully as we could.
Once you figured out that we're not going to get this done today.
Yeah,
because we had to come up with a new plan, right? Like we need a game plan, right?
Yep.
We need like something to figure out. And how'd you figure it out?
I mean, just thinking about it and then talking with Nico, and me and him sat down in the room the one day, worked everything out as far as like how we were going to tackle it. So by the time we showed up to actually like go do the job, we were prepared for it. We had a plan.
You had the ISO board, which ISO board's hard to get. I'm glad you got any ISO board.
Yeah, Hyson found it.
I didn't even know that like you could get ISO board. All these commercial roofers I'm friends with act like ISO board's like, you know, gold right now. Thank God it was only like a small roof, you know.
Yeah.
That's really cool because here's the other thing, you know, and again, homeowners really need to understand this if you're listening. This is the difference between hiring a Chuck in a truck or even some of these other bigger companies who slap cool logos on their truck and they look professional. I'm sure they are professional, but at the end of the day, if you don't have, first of all, real world experience with this stuff, and then also the critical thinking skills and the problem solving skills to be able to figure out issues like this is where jobs go really bad. There you go, Monster. See, we should clip that sound, and every time you clip that, we should get paid like $100. Yeah, and then we could just do it. Maybe we'll just do our own show. Like we'll just have like the Monster Show.
Yeah.
No, this one's blue.
Yeah.
Not to get sidetracked, but you know I got ADHD, so like I see all these colors over here. Are they different flavors?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't pinpoint what this one is. Maybe a.
So do you just grab them? Like, or do you care what flavor it is, or do you just grab whatever you see because it looks cool?
I know the ones that I like, the colors that I like. I like the green one, the Ultra Paradise. That's probably my favorite.
Where do you get them at? Do you go to the gas stations?
Yeah.
Now, do different gas stations have different varieties and selections? And you know which ones have the best ones, right? Oh, yeah. And you probably already have it all planned out. The styles.
Sunoco and BP.
Oh,
yeah.
Where's your favorite gas station for Monsters?
Probably the Sunoco right next to my house.
All right.
It's just too convenient.
If the Monster won't sponsor us, Sunoco and Bell Vernon, please give us a call. We're open for sponsorships. But all right, so let's go back to this critical thinking and problem solving skills that's so crucial, because I can't tell you how many times in my career where whether it was when I was working for my uncle in commercial roofing or, you know, here at Big Fish Contracting doing residential roofing, as soon as there was something that was out of the ordinary, you know, again, that most of the guys just like, were like, oh man, now what, boss, right? They call, they ask questions, and then you got to be able to think on the fly. And for me, I feel like, and again, I didn't grow up in the roofing world, so like, you know, it didn't come as natural to me. I had to like learn everything like from my uncle, and I asked tons of millions of questions. I asked him so many questions. I drove him nuts, you know what I mean? And like, I just asked so many questions. But then that's how I learned how, different people solve problems, right? You know, I would hear my cousin Luke, how he would solve problems. My Uncle Mark would solve problems. And I just started figuring out like how you layer this stuff in, how you understand the way water works, how you understand the way decking works. And once you understand all that stuff, doesn't really matter what problem is thrown at you. You can kind of figure out
Work your
piece
way
together
through
a
it, yeah.
solution. Then when you have good relationships with vendors and manufacturers, and if you ever get stuck, like you can call them, you can get guidance, right? See, these are the things that you don't see on a scope of work when you get your quote, and somebody goes, hey, here's a quote for $20,000. Here's another quote for $23,000. And when we're a little higher, it doesn't say anything on there about our amazing, project manager skills, right? It doesn't show, hey, Chad Wall's got critical thinking, problem solving skills, because I can't make a contract 15 pages long. No one would read it, right? And again, at the end of the day, it doesn't also say, oh, Big Fish has got the best vendor relationships. He's got the most knowledge. He's been getting knowledge for the last, 12, 15 years in the roofing business. And he understands like how to hire the right people. He understands what to look for, because I'm not necessarily looking always for the person that can put the best roof on. Sometimes I'm looking for, guys that can put good roofs on, then also that got really great problem solving skills, because that's where customers have fear. Is when something goes wrong, right? It's easy to do things the right way. Like it's easy to think that everything's going to go perfect, but rarely in construction
does everything go perfect.
does everything just go the way it was planned. And I don't know why, but for some reason, again, maybe it has to do with quantum physics or quantum mechanics. Like when you were talking on that last episode about what's the probability, are you here, or if you're here, I'm thinking what's the probability that roof is going to go off without a hitch, right? And then what are all those problems, right? And how do you figure all that stuff out? But folks, that's the difference between hiring an amazing contractor and just hiring your average contractor, because you don't want to have to do that thing twice or three times.
Oh yeah.
So.
And there's so many points you just touched on there that, like I was saying earlier, it's not enough to know the how, you got to know the why. Because if you know the why, it's like, oh, why do we flash it like this? Because of the way that the water moves. Well, how does the water move? Okay, why does it move that way? If you know the how and the why, you can figure out any problem that's thrown at you.
Water is amazing. We could do a whole episode on water, couldn't we?
Yeah.
We need it to survive. We need it for life. How much percent of our body is made up of water?
Yeah, it's 70%.
70%. Good old H2O.
It's technically killing you, too.
Tell me why.
Because the oxygen, it's slowly, basically it's rusting you. And that's why you're aging, the oxidation.
What if I can do saltwater baths or something, or
it doesn't matter. It still has oxygen in it.
Oxygen. Is there any cleaner I could put in there, little WD-40 or something to make me a little less squeaky?
No, isn't that wild?
Then you can drown. Water, you can drown, right?
You can get water poisoning.
You can get hit in the head with a hail, right? And that could literally kill you.
You need it to survive, and it's also technically killing you.
And it destroys everything.
Yeah.
Right? The only reason we're in business is because of water. If there wasn't water, if there wasn't rain or snow, we could just put
You could just be outside all the time.
Well, we could just put
around a campfire.
Well, you'd probably burn from the sun. Not in Pittsburgh, you wouldn't. But but you could just put something opaque over your house to just shade you. Other than that, you wouldn't need us.
Yeah.
It's like wow, water is so interesting.
Yeah.
What else do you know about water?
Oh, what do they call it? Monoxide dihyphamine, I think is dihyphamine monoxide.
If you can't spell it, you can't say it. Are you able to spell that stuff?
No.
You're not a good speller.
No, I'm not. No. Yeah, dihyphamine monoxide is the chemical name for it. So if you ever hear you ever hear that prank where people, dihyphamine monoxide is in our lakes, it's in our oceans, this is horrible, will you sign this petition to get rid of dihyphamine monoxide? And they're trying to say, get rid of water.
Who knows? Aaron Brockovich probably did that. You ever see the movie Aaron Brockovich?
I did, yeah. Yeah, that was Julia Roberts with that, where the company, or the manufacturing plant was poisoning the water with their waste.
Yeah, and she went in there as the hotshot lawyers, save the town, sue the big companies. Yeah, she filed for them. It was pretty cool. But yeah, water. See, again, water we need it to drink, and then when it's bad, it's bad. It's Water. That's nuts. So tell me a little bit about some other things that you've had to do in the creative world of roofing, specifically to try to solve problems. Like, because I mean, this is what I love about it. And again, I don't hear all the stories all the time. You're just out there doing stuff and executing.
Yeah.
And I know some of the team probably hears about some of the stuff that you do, but share with the listeners at home about some of the jams that you've been in and the way you've solved problems to get out.
Well, I would say like probably the most consistent one is flashing. Like running into unique flashing situations and figuring out how do we flash this to keep the water out of it, you know? I've been trying to show the new guys some stuff on the break on how to do that and how to think through it. And
what's a break for because there's a lot of listeners at home. You got to remember, we're talking roofing lingo, so tell people what a break is.
So a break is a big 12-foot or 10-foot tool that we use to bend metal into certain shapes and make the flashing.
So our metal comes in a coil, right? So it's like a 2 foot roll. It's got 50 foot long, and it's all nicely tightly wound up when it comes new, which is the best way for it to come. And then as soon as you open it up and it spins out, it's like, and then you can score it right with a utility knife.
Yep.
And then you can and kind of bend it a little bit with this brake. You stick it in like a clamp. It's almost like a big clamp.
Big clamp with a bendy arm.
With a bendy arm. There's the technical term.
There's
the bendy arm.
Yeah.
Hey, our bendy arm broke. Can you go to Beacon and pick up a bendy arm for us?
Yeah, could you get the whatchamacallit and the hickey bob?
What was the last thing you sent a guy for?
The
board stretcher.
The board stretcher.
Yeah, remember the board stretcher from last episode? So the brake goes in, and that's how we make all that chimney metal, right? Mm-hmm. Or like metal to go around anything that we got to create. And again, if you can draw it, you can bend it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, it's fascinating. Metal is fascinating.
Draw a side profile for it, and it's like, okay, I need to bend it on this side. I need this bend on this side. This has to be a 90. This has to be a 40.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I've seen some crazy. So I met a guy named John Funovitz who owns Pittsburgh Specialty Construction or Pittsburgh Metals. I forget exactly the name of it. And he's got a metal shop, and he really pretty much is like a vendor for commercial roofers. Because in commercial roofing, we always we even need more crazy metal designs, for flat roofs and curbs and like drip edge and coping stones and things like that. And you can have like over a wall, you have a wall, and then you got to write metal, like almost like it's like two sides, like it's like drip edge with a cap, but like it's all just one big piece within like a flange. I mean, there could be like literally like a couple different bends, and then there's pressure bends, which then the pressure bends can like snap into stuff, and it's amazing what they can do with metal.
Oh yeah.
And that guys we can just fabricate this stuff custom to like literally lock stuff up, cover up the roofing material so that way it's protected. It kind of counter flashes the water, right? And it's really interesting. I think a lot of people, especially homeowners who don't ever think about this kind of stuff, don't realize how much stuff goes into roofing.
Oh yeah. Because
they just, a roof's a roof. They buy one or two roofs in their whole entire lifetime. And no one's ever educated them like that. Everybody knows how their car works, right?
Yeah.
They know how their power windows work. When there's a new tech, when the electric car comes out now, everybody has to learn how to use that. But other than that, you go to buy a car like nowadays, if you're buying the same car you've been buying for 20 years, like you just get in and go. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And every 10 years, you got to learn how all the new buttons work. But, during that time, it's just like you grab the car and you just go.
Yeah.
And people just know how pretty much everything works, inside the car. Now, a lot of people have no idea how it works underneath the hood. But for most homeowners, when they go to buy a car, they've been through that experience so many times. Mm-hmm. They know what questions to ask. They know what they like. They know enough to be dangerous. But in roofing, most homeowners, they don't know anything.
Yeah.
So it's really important for homeowners, first of all, to educate themselves. I love educated customers because they actually get what we're putting down. You know what I mean? Because like that's the difference between the Big Fish Contracting Company, right? All these other companies is like we try to educate our customers through that sales process, and that's why we call our guys project advisors, not really salespeople, because we're literally just advising the customer. Hey, here's how roofing works. Here's how our process works. Here's what makes us different. We give them a couple different solutions and just let them pick.
Yeah.
We're not really selling them anything because nobody wants to buy a roof. It's not like you wake up one day and you're like, dang, man, look at that sexy roof.
Yeah.
As Mark Canyon would say, he likes to sell those sexy black charcoal shingles. It's not like you wake up one day and be like, you know what? I can't wait to buy a roof.
Yeah. No, I mean, education is definitely a huge thing. I mean, even like scale it up, like dealing with like subcontractors. or being a subcontractor and dealing with a general contractor, it was very clear who knew what they were doing and who didn't. Like the general contractors who would freak out didn't know what they were doing. The guys who were calm the whole time, they always had a fix because they had seen enough stuff that they had run into this situation before that they didn't panic. They were like, oh, okay, yeah, that happened. We'll just do this. Hey, that wall's out of square. All right, we'll take that off and we'll re-square it. Nothing, no problem. Meanwhile, the other guy's losing his mind because he doesn't know how to square up a wall.
Well, and then some of the things that you see out there that other guys have done, and when you go out there, it looks like a train wreck.
Oh yeah.
I was on a roof yesterday, and the only reason I was on a roof is because the guy had a deck, and we went out on this deck, and he had a deck on his roof, so that's how I was able to get up there. I was in the south side. It was 2-3 stories up. Looked like pretty decent new shingles, less than 10 years old, maybe 15 years old. But the house, it's 100 years old. It's down the south side. He had dormers, it was attached to another house. There was literally 15 or 20 different transition points that were like really awkward on this roof because of the way the row houses are all connected. And then he had dormer and then decks. And there must have been leaks on this roof because somebody took like white, like a almost not even white. It was almost like a pebblestone clay or like a cream sealant and smeared like it wasn't roof cement, but it's like if they smeared roof cement and trowed it down like in the corner and the angle changes everywhere. And it didn't even match. So like it just looked like crap. First of all, it looked like crap. Second of all, that's not the way to fix anything.
Yeah.
You can put a Band-Aid on it maybe, but like this was like this guy's like nice house. Like it was completely flipped, remodeled. But when you're down the south side and you have all these things that you're not used to and you hire the cheapest guy, like this is what this guy, and this guy didn't do it. He actually bought the house like this, unfortunately. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. So like somebody went up there, did a bunch of crazy stuff, and now he's having leaks. And I'm like, there's only one way to fix this, man. Like you got to take it all off and put it all new.
Yeah.
And then this guy had a deck over an existing roof. And I'm like, if they did it like that, underneath your deck is the same roof, and it's probably just as bad. And the only way to fix this roof underneath your deck is to take the whole deck off. Like talk about bringing the bad news to a guy.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's just like, we see that stuff every day.
Oh, yeah.
That's why we started this company, is to like help everybody fix these things, bring the roofing industry back up to like where it deserves to be, because like it's nothing else should happen until your roof's done.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like your electrical panel would go out if water's leaking in your house, right? Nothing else would work in your house if you didn't have a roof.
Yeah.
So roofing, in my mind, should be the most important. Maybe you got your foundation. Foundation's important. Roof's important. Everything else in between can't happen without a good foundation and without a good roof.
Yeah.
So all you basement guys out there and all you block layers out there, we're in the same boat.
Yeah.
So,
well, like you were saying before, like how water is amazing. Like you got to keep the water out of your house because the water carved the Grand Canyon. Water is going to damage things.
So you said that. So I want to know your thoughts. Tell me how you think the Grand Canyon was made.
Oh, water erosion over centuries of the Colorado River. It was probably helped out a little bit by like the meltwater flashes of the Younger Dryas period.
Keep going. Tell me more, and then I'll tell you what I think.
So about 12,000 years ago, 1,100 or 11,600 years ago to 12,000 years ago, it's possible. We don't know for sure yet, but there's pretty strong evidence that a comet hit the northern Atlantic ice sheet and flash melted it and just sent a wall of water 1,000 foot high all the way down the United States into like Utah, Colorado area. So the Grand Canyon was probably helped out a little bit by that, but it's can't talk.
That's all right.
Glacier
Grab
water
another
melts.
monster.
Yeah, right? Clear my throat. It's melting water from a glacier that's probably not going to be around. The Colorado River is drying up. I don't know if you know that.
No, I didn't know that. Vegas is going to be in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, the Colorado River is drying up. Just too many people using the water straight from it.
Out west, yeah.
So it's going to be interesting.
So 12,000 years ago, water just keep going, a little bit of a glacier.
12,000 years ago, comet hits a glacier up in Canada and flash melts it. Like instantly melts an entire glacier and sends all that water south.
So me, I grew up in a Christian home. We went to church. You know, I believe in the Bible. I'm a Christian. And there's a story in there about Noah's Ark, right? And the flood, right? And to me, that makes the most sense about a lot of the stuff that the world, you know, the way that the continents separated. Because when I was in school, they taught you about like what, Pangea? Is that like where all the continents were together? And then like, if you look at it, they almost like fit together, right? So that combined with the Grand Canyon and some of the like, you know, the way that like the plate tectonics work, I feel like when God sent a flood to the earth for 40 days and like literally flooded the whole earth. And again, who knows? Maybe there was glaciers, and maybe the way he flooded the earth
was by sending the comet.
Maybe sending the comet. Maybe the sun was a little hot that day. Maybe things melted. Next thing you know, like there's a big boat. There's a couple people inside. All the animals are inside. It sounds like a crazy story, but if you really believe in the Bible and you believe everything in the Bible, like the Bible says you're supposed to, that's my explanation for the Grand Canyon. Because I've been to the Grand Canyon and it is a sight to see. Have you ever been there?
Oh yeah, it's mind blowing.
It is mind blowing, and I'm scared of heights, you know, which is weird because I'm in the roofing business, you know. I mean, but like those are real heights.
Yeah,
like those aren't like 20, 30 feet heights.
No, those are
you've never seen anything like that before. Like like the pictures don't do it justice.
No, they don't.
And I've been there a couple times, and I'm like, and I was there with my cousin one time, and he's a roofer, and he's not like he can climb up 60-foot ladders. He's like, you know, the heights just don't. He went all the way to the edge, all the way in the rock. I'm like, no, man, don't do it.
I did the same thing, and
I'm like, but it's vast.
It's massive,
and it's like goes forever.
Yeah,
like you can't even see it all. Like you gotta like drive and drive and drive, and then there's both sides, and then like it's like it's.
Did you go to the thing where you can walk out onto the glass platform?
No, I didn't do that.
Yeah, that one's a little trippy.
Yeah, I'm afraid of that. Look, I get a little bit nervous when I'm on Mount Washington, bro.
Yeah?
It just gives me the heebie-jeebies to like, you know, look down and see all that stuff, and that, you know. Like that's why I don't mind roller coasters as much because I know I'm gonna go up and come back down. But like that way up, oh man, I'm like closing my eyes, like hurry up. Like I just want to go fast. I just want to go down the hill and go fast.
See, I'm not afraid of heights, but I don't like ladders above a certain height. Like as long as I'm on something solid, I'm fine. So like when I went to the Grand Canyon, I'm like holding onto a tree, leaning over the edge, trying to take a picture because the tree was in my way, and my buddies are freaking out. But like I could do that just fine, but if I go more than 2 stories on a ladder, I'm like, whoo, too much. Get back down.
Well, that's why we're in residential instead of commercial.
Yeah.
I mean, commercial though, most of the time you get to go through a roof hatch in the middle of a building. But there were buildings down in Pittsburgh. I remember doing a lot of work for the Carnegie Libraries, and they got some pretty old buildings. And there's a couple of roofs that you can't get to without a 60-foot ladder. Wow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like it's hard to get even a JLG machine in there or anything like that. And like even those JLG machines, I'd almost rather be in a ladder because when you're on a JLG machine, 60 feet in the air, the wind and like that thing's just blowing. You're up there like shaking. I'm like, let me down, man. And then like, you're clipped into the thing. But like if that thing tips over, like what good's that?
Yeah. I thought the same thing. Like I remember like when I was building, I was on the crew that built the Field and Streams in Washington when that was a new thing.
Okay.
And all that barnwood siding on
I got a story about that place.
Yeah?
Up there. Yeah, there was a development. Yeah, keep going though.
Okay, well, when we were putting the barnwood soffit in, we were on the JLG, the scissor lift that goes 60 feet or 100 feet up in the air, and we're 60 feet up, and you screw a board in, and just the pressure from you putting the drill up against that wood just pushes the whole basket out like 3 feet. And then you swing back, and then you try to load up for the next nail to go in and hope that you hit the stud.
Wow, it's almost like you're a rubber band.
Yeah, you just kept sliding. Boom, nail. Whoop, boom, nail. Like, you're just on this thing as it's rocking back and forth. And some guys have nerves of steel, and I didn't. I was, like, harnessed in. And
I'm calling off that day.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling too good today. But that's where the development, I'm pretty sure that's like about 10 years ago, 12 years ago when they were starting to develop all that property. Wasn't there some places up there that they developed, they built, and then like they didn't like the land fall out from underneath it? Do you know anything about that? Like where like the land was unstable and they had to like, I remember hearing stories about that.
I didn't.
They built like they spent millions of dollars up there the rocks were so hard, and then when they built it, like it was unsafe and I don't know whatever happened, but I just remember those were from my commercial roofing days. I remember putting the roof on the Olive Garden out there in Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did a bunch of those Olive Garden roofs were fun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they were unique roofs. Yeah, they had like cool tile, and then they had like Duralast inside like on the flat part, but then around the perimeter and stuff. Chick-fil-A, I did a lot of Chick-fil-A roofs, and like on the little peaks, they had like this really special tile.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that special tile, one day when I was trying to order, it was like I think it was called Boral tile, and it was like a Spanish tile or something like that. And the only place that had it was Allied. And we always had dealt with Cassidy Pierce back in the day, and but Cassidy Pierce. Yeah, that's what Beacon bought. And Cassidy Pierce couldn't get it, so I had to call around. So I called Allied. Well, a guy answers the phone named Chad Meyer. Mm-hmm. Now he works at Beacon. Beacon bought Allied. Well, me and Chad worked out a deal, and he was just like, he was at the branch taking the order, on the phone and stuff like that. And he was all of a sudden, he's like, yeah, I know you guys are starting to sell shingles and stuff like that, because that's what I was more passionate about, was the residential side. Mm-hmm. And he's like, we sell shingles too. And he was trying to get me to buy some shingles. And I was like, well, you don't have Jim Stein that works for you. I said, so if you had Jim Stein, I said, I would buy shingles from you, because Jim Stein is basically every time I have a question or issue, because I didn't know anything about shingles back in the day.
Right.
Like I knew more about commercial roofing than I did shingles. And I always want to know as much as I can about everything, so I feel like I can answer questions for customers and stuff like that. So anytime I ever had a question, Jim Stein would be the person, I'd just call him, because sometimes I'd be afraid to ask my uncle too many times, because I'd always be bugging him, right? So I would spread out who I would be bugging. So I would always be trying to find great people in the industry to ask them questions. But it's funny about Chad, that was 10, 11 years ago. And now his career just keeps taking off. Now he's running 3 or 4 states for Beacon and their sales. And he's trying to drive sales development, I think in Ohio, Michigan, I think in Indiana. It was just a cool little side story about that. But what else you been up to, man?
Oh, I mean, right now, not much. Just playing some Apex Legends.
So that's a shooter game, right?
Yeah, it's a shooter game.
Told me it's like PUBG kind of.
Yeah. It's they've got a tournament, a whole Super Bowl type deal with it. With the ALGS,
like esports. Mm-hmm. Do you play? Do you pay money to be in tournaments?
No, I don't. I'm not. I'm good for the average good, but I'm not tournament level Twitch streamer good.
Do you have to you find guys to play with online? You find back in the day, I don't know if you remember a video game called SOCOM. Mm-hmm. So this is back probably in 2004, 2005. I was working at GE, and I had ambition, but when you work, I was working 8 to 5 or whatever. I come home, I didn't really have a life, didn't have a girlfriend. Go back to my apartment. And I would start playing this PlayStation game, SOCOM, because that's when that was one of the first multiplayer online games. Mm-hmm. And I was fascinated with the fact where you could wear a headset, you could talk to people that you never met before, and we would meet people in these rooms, and while you're not playing, you can just chat with people through the headset, and then you find people that you like, and you're like, hey, you want to be on my team? They called them clans. Yeah. And you would set up clans, and that got really addicting, because it's community, right? Mm-hmm. It's wow, I got these friends in this online space, and it's and we're having fun doing this virtual thing, and it became every day, after work, you were expected to show up
to be online.
And if you didn't show up, they were worried about you.
Yeah.
But we didn't actually have each other's cell phone numbers, or we didn't talk outside of that. So there would be private messages, and but then we didn't really have keyboards, so you'd have to type
it all in that little
thing,
with
a PlayStation controller, and it was really cumbersome. I'm thinking back wow. And now that I'm into NFTs, it's I'm back into I'm in a program app called Discord, which basically an old school chat room. Mm-hmm. It's almost
use it for Conan Exiles too.
It reminds me of AOL Instant Messenger, or Reddit, and it's really kind of clanky and old and very not what people are used to. It's not like Facebook or Instagram. It's just basically just text threads and channels and click back, links and friend requests and. But they're building communities in there. Oh yeah, and people are starting to become friends. And
so in that one game that Conan Exiles, the one that I said is Minecraft for adults, they everything's run on Discord on that one. So you'll join a server, you got to join the Discord to know what the rules of that server are. Yeah, and then it's just a whole. There's people who role play the entire thing. So you have to in your Discord, you have to text your character. Or you have to role play it, or if you want to raid another team.
What do you mean by role play?
Like if my character's name's Max Rebo and whatever backstory I came up for my character, like if I'm texting, I have to text as if though I was that person.
Wow.
yeah, like how dareth you, and like so. There's people that get really
so you're
intense
like
on
really,
it.
so you're really just acting like your character while you're in there.
Yeah, in some of the roles, like
Do they even know your real name?
no,
No,
No.
Nobody knows it's Chad Wall.
no.
That's
No,
funny.
so like some of the servers you get into are really like role play heavy. Other people don't care. Like some people will be like, "Well, you need to role play a reason that you're invading this person." I said, "Well, I wanted his shit. Like my guy wanted his stuff. That's my role play reason. Like
It reminds me like when I drove down 79 one time, and I remember seeing like I was like up towards like I think I was heading up towards Conneaut Lake, and I saw all these people doing like this like role play reenactment, like castles and like I forget what it's
the
called.
LARPers,
What is that?
LARPing, live action role play.
And it's like a festival, and it's like and they dress up in medieval times, and like
And they
what's
all,
it
like,
called? I forget what it's called.
LARPing.
No, but what's the name of the festival?
Oh, I don't know. I've never actually done
driving
it,
me-
but I just know
like,
of it.
There's vendors, and they set up camps, and like it's like and like there's thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah.
They're all dressed up. And I'm like driving on the side of the road, and I'm looking over that field, and I'm like, what in the freak is happening over there?
Yeah.
So that's people doing it in real life.
Yeah, that's
you're doing it in like
in video games.
the video game world. Pretty soon, we're all going to be in the metaverse.
Yeah.
Which I know me and you had a conversation on the phone last night. You don't know much about NFTs yet.
No.
And I don't know anything about quantum mechanics, so we should trade information.
All right.
That would be kind of cool. What's the latest and greatest in the quantum field?
Well, right now they discovered something that might be a supersymmetrical particle. It looks like a version
Super symmetrical
particle.
So what's super symmetrical? Symmetrical, I understand what symmetrical is. It's the same on both sides. Mm-hmm. What's super symmetrical?
All right. So there are in the standard model of particle physics, so they have what they call fermions, bosons, and leptons. All right. Supersymmetry would say for every fermion, there's a lepton counterpart for it. We haven't found it. It just works out well in the math. It would be a very massive particle. It's just a way that the math looks pretty that might lead to something real. Like symmetry led to the discovery of antimatter. I don't know if you know that. So when Drake was doing his equations, all right, and he was sitting down and he was
Drake, not the rapper.
No, not the rapper. No.
That's the only Drake I know, bro.
No. So I can't remember his first name right now. It's escaping me. But anyway, he's figuring out his equations, and he found out that there's always two answers because his answer was a square root or a square of a number. So if you square a negative number, like if I squared -1, I would get the same answer as squaring 1. If I squared -2, it's still 4. So he's looking at this and he says there's always two answers to this problem. There's the positive answer and then there's the negative answer. He goes, it's probably what they called an artifact. It's probably just an artifact in the math. But whenever he went back, what he was describing was antimatter. And they discovered antimatter off of it. So antimatter works exactly the same as regular matter. It's just the particles have an opposite charge. The electron, for regular matter has a negative charge. The antimatter version of the electron is called a positron. It's got a positive charge. So that's a little bit of that's a smaller scale of what supersymmetry looks like. But whenever you expand it up to the full standard model particle physics, it's basically like a periodic table of fundamental particles. It's like the periodic.
Where do you
table.
get all this information? Do you read books? Where do you watch videos? How do you get all this?
I've been studying this for 15 years, man.
And just because you're curious about it.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
you would
literally,
learn a little bit more.
Yeah, it's wild. Do you talk to other people? Do you have friends? Do you have people that you can talk to at a high level about this? Because I can't even add anything. I can't even add any value to this conversation.
So I've tried to join Discords for quantum mechanics and whatnot, just to find a community of people that like this
yeah,
stuff,
so you can
'cause it's
start
really
talking
rare.
on a high level, right?
Yeah.
you're almost you're talking to a bunch of dummies like me. I'm thinking it's cool sounding. I'm thinking I can't wait to hear what the listeners. I guarantee you, I'm gonna people are gonna hit me up in the DM, in my Instagram or my Facebook, and they're gonna be like, Get to hook me up with Chad Wall. I'm curious about that stuff too. Who knows, man? There's probably closet nerds out there all over the world.
It's super interesting. And one of the greatest things about it is like where it can take us. Because like in the 1920s when quantum mechanics was discovered, people were like, oh, well, that's interesting that's how reality works on the smallest level. But that'll never be useful because it's
people
too
were
small.
trying to get cans of beans in 1920, man.
Right?
The Great Depression. I can't imagine somebody like trying to talk about quantum. Do you only think that those people were talking about it were like the super rich people that had like, because like people that are out trying to survive, nobody was talking to them, right? Like,
No.
I mean, so like it had to be a conglomerate of like really, really high
Niels
levels.
Bohr, Richard Feynman.
Yeah, like scientists and engineers and
Yeah.
people building cars and bridges and stuff like that were probably trying to like dapple in that. But now we got roofing guys, just random roofing guys all of a sudden from Bell Vernon
Talking about, It's because honestly,
Hey, you're behind on the monsters, by the way.
oh yeah.
Yeah, come on, man. We only got 15 minutes left. Let's go.
I can choke him.
Hey, listen, I don't want to hurt you. I don't want you to hurt yourself, but Monster's going to give us $100 a can. Yeah, we're 4 cans in. Oh yeah, start the pyramid, baby.
No, but like when we discovered how quantum mechanics worked, we were able to invent the transistor. And since we invented the transistor, we got radios, we got cell phones, quantum mechanics took the Star Trek data pad and made it a real thing. Made it the iPad. The iPad works off of quantum mechanics and how quantum mechanics functions. Quantum mechanics.
Steve freaking Jobs.
Right?
It's probably not him. He envisioned it, and then he probably made Steve Wozniak figure it out, right?
1/3 of the U.S. economy is driven by quantum mechanics. And in the 1920s, they were like, this is useless.
Wow. How do cell phones work?
Through quantum mechanics.
But tell me really, like, how do things go wired? Like, how do things go through the air? Because that's fascinating to me. Like, I still don't quite grasp, like I get that there's satellites in the sky, and I get that, like, I still don't understand how like that works.
So it all works off of light, actually. So a radio wave is actually a light wave. It's just stretched out past the visible spectrum. So it's sending a beam of light up to a satellite, which sends a beam of light back to your phone, and your phone interprets that beam of light and sends it into a speaker, which vibrates, which produces a sound that you hear as my voice.
So what about the video?
Video, it's the same thing.
How do they get the video?
It's all through
and all
light.
the colors. And it's like, is that real? Is video even real?
No, there's only 3 colors on that video.
Red, green, blue.
Green, blue. Yeah, everything
RGB,
else,
baby.
Yeah. Everything else is, just a mixture or, a little bit of 25% blue.
And is it just like a bunch of like? I actually, this camera that we're looking at, like, I don't even understand how this camera is capturing stuff. And then we can send it anywhere in the world. It's wild to me. I'm like,
amazing.
I'm mind blown.
Yeah. Now, we figured all of that out based off of what we know of the electron. And there's still like things that we need to figure out in the standard model of quantum mechanics is not complete, or the standard model of particle physics is not complete. I can't talk.
That's all right, man. That's because too many monsters.
There are things that we know of that it doesn't account for. Like gravity, quantum mechanics doesn't really reconcile gravity at all, but we know gravity is a thing. So they think that what causes gravity is a type 2 spinless particle called graviton. All right. If they could find that, and if they could figure out how that works, then the sky's the limit as far as what we can do with it. We figured out all this based off of the electron. If we could figure out how gravity worked on a quantum level, we could do interstellar travel.
Is that like where like Scotty beam me up?
Yeah, well, so teleportation is already a real thing?
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Tell me, man, we're running out of time. We're gonna have to have you back. Tell me, give me a little nugget on how you think that works.
So it's done through quantum entanglement. They send 2 particles. They entangle 2 particles, send one far away, and then they have another particle come in and interact with it. When it interacts with it, it transfers its information to the other particle and makes it an exact copy of it. However, the original copy is destroyed. So even though teleportation's a real thing, you might not want to teleport, because even though, like, say you teleported to Paris, the you that showed up in Paris
would be dead.
Would think that you were you, and you would think that he would think that he was you for all of his life, or has been you for all of his life. But the original you was destroyed during teleportation. So basically what they would have to do is they would have to like scan your body somehow. Like this is going to be in the future.
Like how far in the future?
Oh, I don't think that it's ever going to really become a thing for people to transport, but probably packages and stuff like that. Like I could see you having a box with all these entangled particles from Amazon in it. And then you're like, hey, I want this. And then they teleport you that item through entanglement.
How does it show up? And like, would you have to have like a microwave, and then you would open the microwave up, and it would just be in there?
Probably be something like that.
It'd be like, ding, and then you open it up, and be like, oh man, I got my package.
So right now we've only teleported like a few atoms, but they were doing it off of the coast of Africa. I think they were teleporting from Africa to Madagascar or something like that. I can't remember exactly where it's at, but it's roughly in that area. So they have only done a few atoms right now, but the original atoms get destroyed, and basically it just like faxes a copy. Like when you send a fax, you know, you're not holding the original piece of paper. You're holding a copy of the paper. It's like a fax machine that destroys the original.
So how are they going to it's almost like they're going to 3D print something. Mm-hmm. But how does it create out of nothing though? Like how are they going to like create it out of nothing? Are you going to have materials there? Like
So
they're going to
they would have to have a bunch of fundamental particles already entangled in that box, and then it would build you out of those fundamental particles. So like the fundamental particles are basically like the base ingredients for everything. Everything on this earth is made up of protons and electrons. Those protons are made up of quarks, up quarks and down quarks. So really everything on this planet, everything in the universe really is like three particles interacting with each other through a couple other particles like the gluon. Or
there's three colors, there's three particles.
Basically.
We live in a world 3.
Yeah. So
this is fascinating, man. I don't know. People are either going to think you're completely just nuts and crazy and lost your mind and off your rocker. They're going to be like, wow, this is one of the smartest guys I've ever talked to.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm just asking. I'm just thinking like and I lost my, I lost the backdrop. See, there it goes.
Oh, there you go.
Boom, back on.
So there's three particles, but there's heavier versions of these particles that don't like to stay around a long time. So they decay rapidly back into these three particles, the up quark, the down quark, and the electron. There's the neutrino too, but the neutrino doesn't really react with anything. It's what they call like a ghost particle. It only reacts with the weak nuclear force. And then you have...
Oh my gosh. Can you see why we love this guy, the Big Fish Contracting? Like, he starts talking about this stuff, and I think everybody's looking at it. I'm like, at first we were like, what in the heck? And then he just keeps going. He's like, well, he must got a lot of knowledge about it.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with all this knowledge? It's just fascinating for you, right?
Yeah. It's just,
are you going to turn it into anything?
I hope.
Do you have your own, like, I told you the other day, I think that you should start doing like your own type of like show with visuals and descriptions. Because you asked me if we could like show like
visual aids.
I'm thinking like people are driving right now and I don't want them to wreck. So like, yeah, have you started like your own Instagram or your own like TikTok?
I've thought about it because there's so many bad documentaries on this.
Bad.
Like there's a documentary called What the Bleep Do We Know? And they tried to like dive into this, but they did a good job of explaining experiments and explaining the weirdness of the experiment, but then they stopped short of telling you what we discovered. So it's like, oh, and then we discovered, how does the particle know that you're looking at it? Well, we're shooting beams of photons at it. We're physically interacting with it. We figured that part out, but they leave it there like it's mysticism, you know?
Wow.
And it's not. Like, they never give the full description.
What's the best book somebody could read if they wanted more information on this?
Fabric of the Cosmos by Brian Greene.
Fabric of the Cosmos. Mm-hmm. Now, is that written in a way that someone like me with that can actually read? Is it going to use small words that like I can actually understand? Because half the words that you've used, like, I need to go get a dictionary.
Yeah. It's,
do they explain all those words? And like, it's like a beginner's guide for...
Yeah. Fabric of the Cosmos, Brian Greene, Greene.
Okay.
And he's the professor of physics and mathematics at Columbia University. And he's also the founder of the World Science Festival that they hold in New York every year. used to be like or Isaac Asimov.
Have you ever been to any festivals or conferences or anything on this stuff?
Not on this.
Would you like to go to one?
I would love to.
Is there, which one would you go to?
Probably the one in New York when they start having it again, the World Science Festival. Right now, it's all like a digital program thing.
Yeah.
You know, to where they're.
I'm telling you, you're going to love the
Zoom
metaverse. You'll love the metaverse.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, I could be completely wrong. I want you to check it out.
I'd be.
I want you to start
interested.
looking into NFTs in the metaverse because I really think like that's where like you can actually start building something yourself and start doing like some cool stuff, you know, where like, you know, this is all cool theory and you're reading a bunch of stuff and you're educating yourself, but there's really nothing you can do with this information, right?
Yeah.
So with the NFTs and with the metaverse, you can actually, it's almost like taking what you know about like all this, like I call it computer nerdy stuff,
Yeah.
like and like wild theories and stuff, mixed it with community, boom, mix them together, and it's like, I don't know, it's like 6-dimensional, I feel like, because it's like you have the community aspect of it, you have the technology aspect of it, you have the real world aspect of it, you have like, you know, the art aspect of it, the creativity aspect of it, and you're mixing it all together. You have real life utility acts, like you can tie utility to it. I mean, they're selling real estate right now in the metaverse, to where people can buy land in the metaverse, and then you can buy buildings, and like you could come in, you could watch our podcast. Like if I had a plot of land in the metaverse, I could build my own cool, fascinating, awesome building. You could take your avatar, right? Get on your computer, put your VR headset on, right? And you can literally walk in and say, "Oh, you know, I want to go." And I want to go to Ben's, you know, the Big Fish, you know, building. We could walk in and be like, "Oh, look, there's the Big Fish Cares podcast," and we could have your avatar, my avatar. We obviously are recording this, so it's like people could actually sit in an audience, right, and actually feel like they're there. How wild is this, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what the metaverse is going to be like. And like, you're going to be able to sell goods and merchandise and skins, you know, so combine video games, like what you do in the video game world.
Yeah.
Like,
skins are
again,
popular.
this is all ties in, right? There's commerce, you know, buying and selling and creating. People are going to be selling sneakers, and like, you know, Nike's going to have like their, you know, you can, you know, go to a store and buy like cool like gear and show off and flex, you know, as Sammy would say, "Hey Dad, you got to flex." I'm like, all right, buddy. You know, what we do is we flex with like, you know, in the real world, we flex with our cars and our apparel and our watches and our, you know, I don't know what else, you know, people have. You're flexing with Monsters. You know, I got my Starbucks. We all have brands that we like, you know, get behind, right? Same thing in the metaverse. Like there's going to be new companies created. There's going to be a whole new world. You know, some of the existing companies that we know are spending millions and billions of dollars. Like Facebook changed their name to Meta.
I know. I heard about that.
I mean, it's fascinating what's going on out there. And like, I feel like over the next couple of years, I'm going to try to help educate more and more people on what this stuff is, because there's going to be a lot of people 40 and over. Because like, I feel like me and you are like right in that middle age where we understand both worlds. Yeah. We're like, people are going to, I don't want to spend my whole day like with a headset on and in like a funny universe. And I'm like, people, you guys got your iPhones out for 8 hours a day. Check your screen time, man. Like, okay, all this is basically putting you in like putting you in the screen. Like instead of like looking at a little 6-inch screen, like it's gonna be all around you. And the cool thing is you're gonna be able to travel and meet people all over the world and do business all over the world and have fun with all people all over the world. And your families are gonna be able to be in living rooms, even though they're not physically in the same spot, but you're gonna be able to walk in and feel like you're there and interact and tell stories and play games and everything you can do in real world. And then people are like, "Well, yeah, but don't you want to go experience the sunshine?" Yeah, man, like that's not going away either. It's just going to be like a dual world that we live in. You know what I mean? Where like, you know, if you want to be at home, you know, like if a pandemic happens, and you can literally like put your 4 walls up and like you can still experience the world, even if you can't afford to travel. You know, or if you can't do that. But like, yes, you're still going to be able to go to the Bahamas if you want. And when you're in the Bahamas, guess what? There's going to be you're going to have your VR stuff there, and you'll be able to go into a room, and no different than Zoom. Like we're doing it right now on screens and stuff. All this is just putting it all the way around you. You're going to be able to move around. You'll be able to control yourself. Like, yeah, like it's going to be nuts.
Yeah.
So people think I'm nuts now. So
No,
we're
no.
nuts together, bro.
Here we go, man.
Love it, man. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode. I hope you had a lot of fun.
I did. This was cool.
Hopefully, I got to get you know what I want you to do? I just thought about this idea. I want you to start creating one video a week, like a 2 to 3 minute educational video on something about the way you keep water out and the way roofing works and stuff like that. I want you to make I want you to make a video. You good? Just make it with your cell phone.
All right.
And then, do you know how to edit videos and stuff on your phone? Yeah. And then send it to us. We'll put it out on your own page. You should create your own page, like Chad Wall. Like, come up with like a cool name, like something that ties like the quantum stuff or whatever you want your name to be. Like, and then create like a cool like roofing guy. Because listen, you can create your own brand inside the brand, right? And be known all over the world for like this character that you are.
Okay.
Right? Like, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, take that, like kind of like in the video game, like how you have like that avatar in the video game.
Yeah.
Think about who you could be in this roofing world to tie what you're doing every day into like helping educate people with all your like, I think that there's something here.
All right.
And I think that we can help kind of like, we can help each other kind of both like experiment. And
We could do a little bit of like wordplay. Like they have what's called quantum chromodynamics. So you could have quantum hydrodynamics, even though it's hydro is a little bit too big for the
we
quantum
want to keep
realm,
it a
but-
little bit simple first for the customers and the homeowners.
Oh, this is for the customer. I thought you meant like go. I got you. What you're saying.
I think it's for like the homeowners, right? So they want to understand like educational stuff, but they want to hear it from like an intelligent side.
Ah, okay.
See what I'm saying? Instead of like some truck in a truck roofer with like 3 teeth and like, raisins and like a bag of cigarettes and, you know
Slightly
what I mean?
better than Bob Vila.
Yeah, like make it better than Bob Vila, right?
That's
And,
not
like,
hard to do.
But have fun with it, because I know you can have fun with it. So thanks again for being here. I can promise you, we will have you on future episodes because this is a good time, man. So
right.
appreciate you being here.
Absolutely.
Everybody,
Thank
you
you
got
for
to
having me.
subscribe to the podcast, like it, hit the bell, whatever you got to do to like get the word out on the Big Fish Cares podcast. Love having you guys here, and we'll be back next week.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the Big Fish Cares podcast.